Welcome to Block 6 of the Speed Agility unit of your Athletic Development Program. Today we're going to talk you through the exercise we'd like you to do in this block. It's going to be split into three components. One is your hopping, two is your acceleration and deceleration focus, and three is your speed focus. So on the hops, we'll talk you through this first. We've done lateral focus and we've done sagittal focus on the last two blocks, and this now is rotational. With the return of your sport pending and looming very close, we'd like you to maintain this good exposure to rotational focus in your program. So the first one, now what might seem not too much heavy loading, when you load up the sagittal or the transverse plane, it's quite demanding on the body. You may not seem it, but it's quite challenging for the body to overcome this, but your sport demands of it. To try and bridge that gap as best we can, here are a few exercises to do. So you can do this by imagining you're in a clock face, you're in the middle of the clock and you're trying to jump out to 7 or 8 o'clock or 4 or 5 o'clock on the other side. So what I want you to do here is get a nice wide base of support like you would on any squat, so not too far than your hips, just a bit about hip or slightly wider. You're going to squat down into the movement and then you're going to make the jump. So make sure you're fully extended on the start position, then drop down and then make the jump across to your left or right. So Sandra's going to show us here what to do, and then jump. Good. So again, load up with the hands, and then rotate and jump back as far as possible, and go to the other side. Good. So you don't really want to pause when you get down. You want to use that force and momentum, and then generate yourself out of that as much as you can. Yeah. Good. Yeah. And we're looking for here now, not too much height in our jumps, as much force across the body, or across the plane as much, so horizontal focus as opposed to vertical, trying to get as high as we can. So again, yes, we have to get a little bit of vertical because we have to get off the floor, but then we have to transfer that as far back as we possibly can. So creating that 45-degree angle as much as you can. So put the reps and sets up on the PDF when this is done, but roughly 4 reps on each side is going to be, and we're going to go 3 times through this as well. So 4 reps on your left, 4 reps on your right. Okay. Adding complexity each time now, so we're going to do pogo hops, which is one of my favorite exercises to do for plyometrics, is kind of keep the feet close enough together. We don't have to be touching, but close enough together. Balls your feet as a contact. Remember, as you're hitting the floor, you want to be ready for contact. So 5 repetitions, and then on the 5th one, do the jump out like you were just doing. So again, 5 repetitions, toes up, and jump out to the side. Remember the 3 things I always say about a lot of force, so as much force as you can generate, how quickly can you apply that force, so get off the floor as quick as you can, and then the coordination of the movement and the timing of the force is so important. So make sure you have that feel or that mindset to feel the force going through the body as well. It's very important. Good, and then jump. Yeah, good. And just if there's any reference at home, just where you are and the line that you are, you want to break the line and jump back as far as you kind of can. So you're trying to rotate that movement as much as you can. That's good. Okay, next one now is quite challenging. It's a squat jump variation really, but in rotational bias. So you're going to do the same thing as kind of what we've already done, but just loading it up more. You're going to jump at 45 degrees, back to center, out at 45 degrees on the other side, and then back to center again. Good. There and back. Perfect. Now, with all that momentum you've got going on, it's a difficult exercise to manage because you've got to rotate back and rotate out and rotate back on both sides, and do it with a little element of fatigue as well, because you're going to do it 8 times, but that's 1 repetition when you go there and back. So when you've done there and back twice on each, or once on each side, that's 1 repetition. Good. Great, and what I like about this movement here is always back to center. So when she rotates and then comes back, she's back to where she started, and that's what I want to see as well. So that shows there's good power generating forward and back, but also there's good coordination of that power being developed also. Okay, now we're going to go on to our acceleration deceleration focus. So we'll keep the principles that we always apply about good acceleration mechanics, which always starts with a good starting position. So good athletic position, a position you feel comfortable moving up, down, left and right from. And then from here, you know the first step is a backward step or a 0 step, negative step, however you want to call it. And then you're going to accelerate forward. Now the key points today are change in direction 90 degrees. So it's a 90-degree cut, right? And I'm just going to slow it down really for a second. So you should do the movement, get in the leg position. And when you come here, I want to turn left, right? So my options here are really turning left with my left foot, which is inefficient. I want to turn off my right foot. Now what I want to do is step outside of my center mass. Imagine we're a train on tracks. We got to get the train off the tracks, turn left or right, okay? We don't want to do that with the inside step because that is not efficient movement. We want to step outside the train track. We want to step outside of our center of mass. So we want to come here, step outside, and then generate the same mechanics again, and also deceleration on this on the cone. Okay, so have a go of it. Good, and then change direction. So this is perfect because at home, there's a lot of thought process behind here because you're trying to get across a good coaching point. So it might slow down the movement. It may be beneficial for you to slow down and get the movement right before you add speed to it. So slow it down, get the movement right, and then add the layer of speed to it. Good, and make sure you decelerate on that last cone as well. So you got the acceleration, change direction, and then a stop as well. Good, and stop. Yeah, and when you stop, what we're looking for here is exactly the same as the start position, a good athletic position, because more than likely in a game, when you stop at that 90, when you stop from whatever velocity you're at, running at to 0, there's probably going to be an extra movement after that. You're going to have to chase someone, you might catch a ball, you might have to execute a shot, whatever it might be. So you have got to be in a good base support or a good position to be in before you accelerate. So on this one, it's 4 repetitions on your left side, 4 repetitions on your right side, rest a couple of minutes, and then repeat it 2 more times. So you do it 3 times in total. So that's the focus here, practicing that 90-degree cut in your training. Okay, onto our speed component then. If you go at the top, so set up the track like it is here, and the dimensions here are a little bit inaccurate just because of the space we have, but make sure this is 10 meters, and then you got a 30-meter track, and then you got 10 meters to slow down. That's very, very important. We're going to do this in a 10 meters of work and then 30 meters of running. Now we're on the development phase, so again it's 90% work, so 90% effort, max speed. On the first couple of reps, build your way into it. You might do it 80% and then 85, and then the last couple of reps is 90%. So see your way into it where you want to go. So the first one is an A skip. Done this with us before. The heel or the foot travels up the line of the shin and then into 90%, and then a gradual slow down. So you're getting into that position, you're driving up, getting your knees. Your knee is not a full knee drive up to 90. It's kind of maybe 45 degrees, but the important point here is the foot is coming up the shin, and the balls of your feet is the contact, and you put the coaching point here is to push the floor away. So get force into the floor, push the floor away from you. Next one is a B skip. This is more similar to maybe a max speed mechanics. Yeah, so that's cyclic action of the foot coming around, scraping the balls of your feet off the floor. Yep, good. And into a sprint, and then slow down gradually. Good. Good, so you're bringing that foot around. It's a really good one for the hamstrings to get them working in the way they should work, and replicates a max speed effort because the contact should be under your center mass or slightly behind, and that's similar to when you run. You get into that position and the foot comes down and then drives you up and sends a bit of vertical force through the body. Okay, the next one is jockeying. So a bit more functional now. So we're going to go 2 left and 2 right, or 3, doesn't really matter. Just shuffling left a few times, shuffling right a few times to 10 meters. And then open up into a sprint. I think it's an extremely common exercise to see in training, but because it's so common, I guess it's commonly done poorly. A lot of the time, you see this, everyone's really tall in it, and they just flick the boots, and you hear the boots clicking, and then you say, don't click the boots, but they still remain tall. The important point here is that you stay in a flex position, you stay nice and ready to move from. So I'm ready to now sprint from here or change direction from here, and maintain that position. And as you come here, a lot of times they cross the feet. Keep your feet wide, open up the hip, so you have to get that internal rotation of the left hip to open up, and to the right hip and open up, and then once you hit, you sprint. But make sure you're keeping that nice wide base of support all the way through the movement. Is crucial to the buy-in or the transfer of the movement to your sport. Same thing applies with the lateral shuffle. So face one way, toes forward. Yep, and shuffle across, keeping that base of support, and then into a sprint. Yeah, again, often done really wrong. Again, the feet clicking together, or not wide enough, or not squatting low enough, or whatever, and also externally rotating the feet, which is going to take the glutes out of the movement. So make sure your feet are forward and you're shuffling across in that position. A bit like a baseball. You see baseball movers, or basketball, sorry, it's the same thing, but it happens so much in the sport of hurling football. And yeah, other side now, same thing again. Yeah, lateral, last one of the lateral ones. And into a sprint. Good. You may find that one side is better than the other. You may feel because you obviously are pushing off more on the right side or the left side depending on where you're traveling. So one might be better than the other. So just make sure you're doing both. And the last one is a straight leg run. So again, this loads up the hamstring. It's just in a different sort of way because you're in range at the hamstring in this way, and you're in range on the other side, if that makes sense. On the other, balls your feet, balls your feet, balls your feet is the contact, and then sprint all the way 90%, and then slow down gradually. So it's nice and tall, feet extended, balls your feet hits the floor, and start accelerating as you go through. Initially feels a bit strange, but then as you gain momentum, it becomes a bit easier, and then you get into 90%. So 6 repetitions, 3 times, 2-minute rest in between. And it's the last time we're going to do 90% sub-maximum stuff. After this it'll be about maximum speed, and it'll also be about loading it up under an element of fatigue. And with the games looming back, it's important that we get into this kind of sequence of regularly getting close to max speed. And if you've been following us for 12 weeks, you should be in a really nice place now to hit max speed and not fear of anything happening, any injuries or anything like that. You should be well prepared for 100% training. Well, keep up the training, stay consistent. We'll see you again soon, and I hope you're enjoying it so far.